All right, guys, today we're going to be inspired by Faith Ringgold's quilts, and we're gonna make a painting of our neighborhood. You'll see that there's kind of like a frame outline here. That's because we're gonna be using paper, almost like quilting squares, to build a frame for these paintings. But to get started, I'm going to do the part on the inside, which is actually a painting of my neighborhood. When I do this, I like to start with my house in the center because this is kind of like the center of my neighborhood. And I'm gonna make the outline of my house. I don't wanna make it too big because I wanna make my whole neighborhood, not just my house. So I'm gonna make the outline of my house. My house has a porch, so I'm gonna make some columns that have a little roof on top. There's my porch. Here's my door. Here are some steps. And then I'll make some windows here. My house has a chimney. And we're gonna be painting these so you can add color and more details then. Right now we're just getting the basics. I have a tree next to my house. I have some plants in front of my house, so I'm gonna make some areas that I'll fill in green there. Here's my driveway, and then there's the sidewalk in front of my house. Next to my house, there's a sidewalk that goes to my neighbor's house. So I'm gonna draw that in. And maybe even I'll make it back here so you can see the backyard a little bit. I have like a jungle gym in my backyard. So I'm gonna draw that jungle gym that you can climb on. There. And now I'm gonna draw my neighbor's house. So I'm starting with a square, putting a triangle on top. I'm making a door and windows. And then I'm gonna go the other way. Maybe I'll even draw my car in the driveway because this is where we park our car. And that's like the car from the back. You can see the back window there. Then I'm gonna make the sideway go up a little bit. And I'm gonna draw a tree right here because there's a tree kind of by the road there that I forgot to add. And here's a neighbor's house. So you can see that I just started with my house and I didn't wanna go too big. If you make your house too big, you can't fit your whole neighborhood. And I'm gonna keep working like that until I fill my paper with as much of my neighborhood as possible. I'll time lapse you while I work on it. All right, now I'm ready for painting. I have my tempera set and I have water and a sponge. To get started, I'm gonna pick a color. My house is made out of bricks, so I'm gonna choose red. And I'm gonna paint the area of my piece that I want to be red with the color red. As I'm working, I'm remembering that my paintbrush is like a ballerina. Ballerinas dance on their tiptoes. This is the tiptoes of my paintbrush. So I always keep it up high on the tiptoes. Ballerinas never ever scoot around on their bottoms. The bottoms are the metal part of the paintbrush. So tippy toes, never booty scooting around your paper because nobody wants to go to the booty scooting ballet. So pretty little ballerinas dancing on their tiptoes. When you're ready to switch colors, you'd go to the water and you swish in the water and then you paint X's onto the sponge to dry your brush. Then you dip into your next color. Maybe I'm gonna paint this green area where my shrubs are in my yard. I'm never mixing the colors. I want to keep my paintbrush nice and clean so that the colors stay clean for the next person. So when I switch, water, then onto the sponge. There are a lot of different values of green, so I think I'm gonna do some of my trees with this darker value of green. And you'll notice that when I get a color, I'm kind of looking around my paper and seeing what all do I need to do with that color. It's a little bit quicker this way if I fill in every spot that I want to be that same color at the same time. So now I'm gonna swish my brush, dry it off, into my next color. Now sometimes it's hard to remember what everyone's house in your neighborhood looks like. So for example, I can't really remember what color this house is. And that's okay. This is my painting. This is kind of my interpretation of my neighborhood. So if you have to take a guess, or maybe you just think, what if I got to paint that house? What color would I paint it? That's okay. You'll probably have a pretty good idea of what color your house is, but you might not exactly remember what color your neighbor's houses are. And that's fine. Just kind of take a guess. So again, I'm getting my brown and I'm painting whatever I think is going to need to be brown on my paper. This is a little faster than painting each little piece at a time. So I'm working like that until my paper is full of color. And I'll time lapse you, but the big things I want you to remember are about painting are tiptoes with your paintbrush, no booty scooting, and rinse your paintbrush in between colors. Never mix my colors of paint. All right, now we're gonna make painted paper that we'll use for the quilting portion where we make the frame. I'm gonna start with some paint and I'm gonna roll it onto a piece of construction paper. Today the steps are gonna be rolling and scraping. So I've rolled, now I'm gonna take the scraper and make a little design into the paper. Now I'm gonna roll a new section. And I can make my pattern carry over the entire paper, or I can do different areas. So these ones I did horizontal lines. Maybe here, I'm gonna make it vertical. Roll, scrape. Roll. And scrape. We're going to be completing 2 pieces of painted paper today. So this is my first. When I'm done with this, I'll raise my hand, we'll put it away, and you'll get a second. All right, guys, now that my neighborhood is dry, I'm gonna use that paper that I painted along with some other pattern paper to make a border around my painting. To do that, what I'm gonna do is in the white area of my painting, I'm just gonna put glue down. Usually I will tell you to trace around the outside of your shape and then stick it down. But in this case, it works a little bit better because some of our squares won't fit exactly on our paper and we don't wanna get glue all over the table. So I'm gonna stick one down. And you can't do the whole thing with glue first. You have to do just a little bit. So I did about up to here. And now I'm laying my squares down. And it's okay if they're uneven around the edges. If you don't like the look of this, when you're all done, I can take this over to my paper cutter and I can even out where it goes over the edge right there. But it doesn't really bother me. If it bothers you though, we can fix it. So I finished one side and then I'm gonna go up the other 2 sides. And I'll time lapse you while I work on that. All right, now you can see that I have a border around my art. And like I said, if it bothers you that it's going off like it's a kind of a zigzaggy line, what I'll do is just run it over to my paper cutter and make a nice clean line for you. But you can see I painted my neighborhood and I was inspired by Faith Ringgold. So I did this kind of cool quilt-ish looking border to tie in the idea from her work. So good job.